If you've ever watched your toddler dump out an entire toy bin, play with each toy for about 30 seconds, and then look at you and say, I'm bored, you're definitely not alone. I think as parents, most of us assume that we have to buy more toys or come up with more activities to keep them busy. I mean, that makes sense, right? But what I've learned through my years as a preschool teacher and now as a parenting coach is that we're often accidentally getting in the way of our kids' natural ability to play deeply and to focus. I used to do this with my own boys all the time without even realizing it. The truth is that children are actually born with this incredible capacity for concentrated, creative play. We just need to set them up for success and then get out of their way. Today, I'm sharing 5 simple shifts that can completely transform how your child plays. And honestly, some of these are so easy that you'll probably laugh at how obvious they are once you hear them, but don't let the simplicity fool you. These small changes can lead to longer periods of independent play, better focus, and way more creativity from your little one. So my first tip is to either set up toys or a play invitation. So again, this sounds super simple, but let me explain. Simply laying out toys in a specific way can really get your toddler's attention, even if they're out all the time. So for example, we have a little cubby with about 8 toys in it at any given time. A lot of times my kids won't play with the toys that are in there. But if I pull out, say, the magnetiles to the middle of the floor, all of a sudden they'll come down from being upstairs and start playing with the toys as soon as they wake up in the morning. So it's because we lay them out strategically right in front of them. This is also a hack that I do in the mornings while I'm cooking breakfast. Sometimes I will set up what I call a table toy for them to play with in the morning. So this allows them to do something and they usually go right to it. Every once in a while, they'll say they don't want to play that thing, and that's fine, and I'll just switch it out. But most of the time, they just start playing with whatever is put in front of them. And this allows me to get breakfast made while they're occupied doing something. But I always laugh at how simple this is because I do this all the time and I crack up because these toys are literally out sitting there. My kids don't touch them until I pull them out on their own and lay them in the middle of the floor or the middle of the table. So give it a try and let me know how it goes in the comments. Another thing is setting up a play invitation or an invitation to play. So this is simply laying out some kind of materials so they can be like loose parts. You could do like nature loose parts with all little things from nature. You can go out and get some grass clippings or leaves or sticks or rocks and kind of put it all in a tray and give your child some containers, and then you just see what they do with it. So this is really great because toddlers naturally gravitate towards what's known as open-ended play. So this is the kind of play that doesn't have a specific outcome or intention or purpose. So the child creates the play with the materials that they're given. Or you can set out a piece of paper with different kinds of art materials and then see what they do. If your child's a little older, more like preschool or elementary school age, you can lay out like some glue and some scrap pieces of paper and then some markers, and if you're feeling brave, paint, and then just see what happens, see what they do with it. There's no instructions, there's no direction on how the play should unfold. They are guiding the play. So these are beautiful things that toddlers and preschoolers are naturally drawn to because they have that desire to be creative and play with open-ended things and create their own play. So think about the things that you have around the house for this. This could be buttons, pipe cleaners, pom-poms, popsicle sticks. Like I said, natural elements from outside. These are all things that can be incorporated into open-ended play or a play invitation. But it's so fun to watch them do this and see what they do and see that they are just natural explorers and little scientists. The next thing you want to check is your environment. Ask yourself, is your environment set up for play? Now, this does not mean that you have to have some kind of elaborate playroom set up or anything like that. This could be a little area, but the main things you want to think about are, do you have a dedicated play space? Is it clean-ish, right? Despite what we may think, children actually do crave organized spaces because it helps their brain be able to think and process things. So this means not having all of the toys out at once. I highly recommend doing a toy rotation. If you can, I have a video on that I will link in the description box for you. But maybe having about 8 to 10 toys out at a time, maybe a little more depending on your child, but this helps them to narrow their focus, because what happens is if you have a ton of toys in the room where your child's playing, it gets to be overwhelming for them and they actually can't play because they're just so frazzled and overwhelmed. And then a lot of parents come to me and they're like,
Jess, my kid has a million toys and they're not playing with any of them.
and this is why, because they're kind of just all thrown in a room or a toy box. That's another thing. You want to have the toys on display if possible. Those 8 toys, and every toy should have a place. We have this little cubby shelf that I love. It works really well for us. It has 8 slots. We do have more than 8 toys out at one time, but it's kind of like a group of things, if that makes sense. Like I have a bunch of big trucks out for them, but that counts as like one thing. So try and have the toys on display that your child can easily access. They should be accessible, so everything should be low. If you have a bookshelf, it should be low so that your child can access the books. Think about the materials that you want them to be able to access independently. This kind of stuff should be laid out on their level. This can really help in encouraging them to play independently and help them get into a deeper flow of play. My third tip is, and don't take this personally, loosen up. I want you to think about when you say no to something that your child asks to do, why you're really saying no. Because I know for me, a lot of the time that I would say no in the past, it was kind of for selfish reasons. I didn't feel like dealing with mess, or I didn't feel like taking things out and setting things up. And that's okay every once in a while. But if we're doing this every single time, this isn't great for our kids. So we really want to think about it. Why am I really saying no to this? Is this a valid reason to say no right now? Obviously, if we're going to leave the house in 5 minutes, I'm not taking out paints. That doesn't make sense because we don't have the time to do that. That's a valid reason to say no. But if we're home all day and I say no to taking out paints because I just don't feel like getting messy or dealing with the mess, might want to reconsider that. Again, we all have our days where we're like, I just can't handle this right now. I'm at my capacity, and that's okay. But I just want you to think about it. When you're saying no, is it a truly valid reason to say no? And also under loosen up is accepting the idea of mess. Toddlers and preschoolers come with mess. Think about ways, if you are very mess adverse, which I kind of used to be, even as a teacher, think about how you can make it easier, right? So if we paint, I always have wipes nearby. If we do a sensory bin inside, I have a disposable tablecloth laid out on the floor to make cleanup a lot easier. I'll just take the tablecloth either outside or I'll dump it right back in the bin when we're done. So think about these kinds of things that can make it easier for you if mess is triggering. And that's totally okay if it is, but try and learn how to accept it or make it easier for yourself, because it is part of their play and part of their growth and exploration. My fourth tip is to turn off the TV. Even if it's in the background, it can be really distracting to our kids when they're trying to play, and it can prevent them from getting into that deep play. I actually had a client who had a daughter who would not play unless the TV was on in the background. So she had grown so accustomed to hearing noise and hearing the TV in the background, she had a really hard time with silence. So we were able to substitute that with music and wean her off of having the TV on in the background successfully. So music is fine for this. If you are going to put music on, you want to think about the mood that you want to cultivate, right? If your child's doing something calm and relaxing, you can put on some nice piano or classical music or something like that. If you want them to kind of get their wiggles out and, have higher energy, you're going to want to put on something a little more upbeat and get them dancing around and moving around. My next tip is to not intervene. I know this can be so difficult for us as parents because it's so tempting when your child's playing nice to jump in and say, oh my gosh, you're playing so nicely. Oh, you're doing such a great job, right? Because we're also taught to highlight the positive. But if they're playing and they are deep in their play, don't interrupt them. Let them go. Take this moment to do something for yourself or to see it as a glimmer moment that you take note of. If you want to know more about glimmers, I have a video for you right in the description box. But kids get into a concentrated, deep flow during play. So we want to step back and allow for that to happen. If they come up to you, it's totally fine to acknowledge them. And if they, it's natural for them to want to show you something, that's totally fine. Acknowledge them, and encourage them to go back and continue doing whatever they were doing prior to that. Now, there are times where you should intervene when your child is playing. So if you want to know what those times are, then check out this video right now.